Mr. Mesut Sabri from Kuwait, which is the pilgrimage of children under the shadow of corona pandemic. The floor is yours.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May God's peace be upon Prophet Muhammad. I'm sorry I cannot speak Turkish, so I'm going to speak in Arabic language. So my lecture is about the child's pilgrimage under the shade of corona pandemic. So we will talk about the Sharia ruling regarding the pilgrimage of the young children. So we know that young children are the richness of humanity. They are important assets of humanity, and this is also recognized in the Islam. Today's the children will be the adults and managers of the future. That is why Islam attaches great importance to the children. From the very beginning, it gives right to select, elect, choose one's spouse, and there are many means that are provided to the children. From the point of Islamic law, a young child is an individual before the age of puberty. You know, the age of adolescence, the puberty is the 15 years of age. If there are no signs, even at the age of 15, it is the child is accepted as, and the obligations will be endowed upon that individual, and that is ordered by God. So when an individual reaches the age of 15 with the puberty, with the competences, the obligation starts. But when we look at the local rules, in fact, and also at international classifications, a child is defined as an individual before the age of 18. In terms of the Sharia rules, you see some important deviations in the Islamic law. Scholars, you see the basic principle is the age of 15, and also some signs, but according to the law, generic law, it is based on the age of 18. In Islam, it's important that responsibility is not recognized during the childhood. However, a child is raised with the understanding and consciousness of responsibility. It means that the potential events to occur cannot be analyzed very correctly by a child, or a child can act emotionally. So from time to time, the child should be encouraged or should be guided as necessary. This is the general attitude. So the Fakih of the Hanafi Mazhab, in fact, have already listed the requirements for a genuine obligation, and also they make a special emphasis on childhood. Since a child has not reached the puberty yet, a child is always seen as and non-obliging. It means that there is no due responsibility here with the terminology of the fiqh. If that child goes on pilgrimage, then in fact it doesn't relieve the individual, the child, of its obligation, because later on that obligation will still need to be fulfilled. According to Bayhaqi's narration and reporting, In fact, some obligations may be deemed as a fard for those who have not reached the adolescence. For example, if the child is able to distinguish and make distinctions, then that child can be considered as an obligor. However, that is a weak comment. Then in the fiqh of Imam Shafi'i, we see that the adolescence is a basic requirement for the obligation. The fact also discuss if a child goes on pilgrimage, then that fard, will it be considered as fulfilled? The general opinion says that, okay, it will be a good thing for the child. However, later on, with the puberty, that child will still have to fulfill this fard obligation. And in fact, there are some hadith saying that the individual will get the merits for this. The fard will still be there to be fulfilled according to the Hanafi. So according to Imam Hanafi, when the child goes on pilgrimage, the pilgrimage will not be accepted as a genuine obligation fulfilled. In fact, this is associated with the relevant hadith, and the child, if the child goes on pilgrimage, it means that the Hajj obligation will still there be applicable for the child in future. In fact, the students of Hanafi, however, had conflicting opinions according to Sahiri Mazhab and also some according to some Shafis. In fact, the obligation will no more be a fard for the child in future, and also it is related to Arafat. If puberty comes before Arafat, then some say that the obligation will no more be a fard. And also they speak about the requirements for pilgrimage of the child. The first requirement is related to the consent and permission of the child, and also the child should have the power to distinguish between things, and also the parent should be giving the permission, and also the intention should be uttered and declared by the parents. Also, if the children are or get exposed to the pandemic or corona, then what can be done, what should be done? In this case, the pros and cons need to be checked. In fact, first, it is necessary to check if there will be an exposure of the child to the pandemic. So there is some information related to a trial in Europe regarding children, and it says that there is a danger to children. It means that the children can get exposed to corona. This is one opinion. There is another perspective. The WHO, World Health Organization, states that the children get caught by the virus at a ratio of 8.5%. Also, the duration of infection is the same both in children and adults. So, starting from 5 days, extending to 16 days. And also another Canadian medical association, in their journal, an article was published that trial, that research included about 2,500 children, and 35.9% of the children got exposed to corona. They didn't show any symptoms, and 2/3 of the population in the research, in fact, felt the symptoms. These are very important pieces of information indeed, And that may give some idea about whether the children should go on pilgrimage under the shade of Corona. What are the most important symptoms in children related to Corona? Loss of taste, loss of sensation, fever, vomiting, and sometimes fainting. Headaches. COVID-19 may create inflammation in the nervous system of children. Occasionally, this is the reported information. It means that the children will be exposed to hazards and dangers by this virus. Within this framework, we can discuss the pros and cons of a child going on pilgrimage. In fact, let's speak about the bright side first. The child will get the medals, and we should encourage the child in order to let them fulfill their responsibilities sincerely, as in the case of other ibadah. Even if they are not genuine obligations at that age, they will be very useful for the child, and all these ibadahs will be encouraging the children. We can also turn and look at the companions of the Prophet. For example, they taught their children how to psalm, how to fast, and when the children wanted to eat, they would just keep them busy. And also we can turn and look at the Shafi. Only at the age of 7 you can tell a child how to give a prayer, how to do the psalm. So 7 years of age is important. These were all about the pros. And we can also talk about the cons, the negative sides. For example, there is the risk of getting the infection, and sometimes there may be the mortalities, or different diseases can be triggered. It means that some harm will be created in this period, and we know that these children are important assets for us, and according to Islamic law, these are important assets for us, and we can never lose on our assets, which are the children. As you know, if the children get exposed to any damage, then there are 5 famous protections coming from Islamic law, protecting the mind, protecting the health, protecting the body, protecting the property. So when you look at all of them together, in fact, these protections are necessary in terms of religion. So protecting the mind, protecting the instinct, protecting the property. These are also required to be protected because of the religion. Now, we can make a calculation, we can make a comparison. I mean, we can look at the pros and cons. So it's about protecting the body of the human being. It's about protecting the essential existence of the human body. So that is one of the essential protections that are ordered by the Islamic religion. So we should protect the body to the possible extent, and we should try to eliminate all the damages possible. So it's an important objective for the Islamic law, that is protecting the flesh itself. There's also a certain ranking. During the Corona, the children should not go on pilgrimage. This is the conclusion that we reach, because we can, yes, look at the benefits that are offered, but we see that the disadvantages, in fact, outweigh the advantages. Of course, some scholars in the past also said that the Hajj should not be practiced in certain periods because of the damage potential, and some sermons followed. Then we also see in those sermons that if there is the potential damage, then the Hajj obligation may not be performed. If it is safe, I mean, if there is no security issues, if there are no health issues, then one can go on pilgrimage. However, if there is a pandemic like corona, or if there are different safety threats, then Hajj should be avoided, according to the opinion of the scholars. We can also have a look at the Islamic jurisprudence in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in the fatwa, the delegations and boards. We see one common point, and if one part is an integral piece of a whole, then in fact it cannot be separated from that whole. With this understanding, we conclude that the individuals we are talking about, those children, should not go on pilgrimage. We also have data coming from the jurisprudence, and we know your last couple of minutes, sir. Okay, thank you. Of course, our goal is to prevent any further damage. This is why we try to avoid this practice. Sometimes people may chase minimum benefit and act accordingly. For example, there may be certain texts or speeches which advise going on pilgrimage. However, we should also consider that there may be issues, and then this practice, the Hajj, can be avoided in order to refrain from these issues. And there are many research papers. These are related to the definitions of childhood, and by looking at the Sharia law, we can make a decision. So if we would like to protect the children, then we can start the protection at a younger age. So regarding the protection of the child, there are many studies. In case of any pandemic or infection by the virus, there is a risk of death, or there is the risk of damage. So about the jurisprudence and also other kind of data give us this idea. Thank you. May God's peace be upon Prophet Muhammad. Thank you. Thank you very much for your speeches with best regards to Kuwait. Thank you for joining.